Hello, this is Idodmg and welcome back to the channel. In this Diablo 4 video, I want to talk to you about the new Spiritborn class that was added in the expansion pack, the Vessel of Hatred. The Spiritborn class is pretty unique and versatile in my opinion. We're not going to be covering like the meta builds or anything like that. We're just going to talk about some fun things with the class that I've noticed and that I want to talk to you about today. I've been enjoying my time discovering the Spiritborn class without looking up any guides and just taking my own pace and my own approach to the class and breaking it down. Hopefully you'll enjoy this overview video. Let's go ahead and talk about the Spiritborn class in Diablo 4. What makes the Spiritborn class unique is there are 4 different spirits that you can choose from. You don't just have to pick one spirit, you can mix and match. And in fact, I encourage you to mix and match. But the very first spirit is the Jaguar spirit, and this is fire-based. There's also a new mechanic in the game, or a new buff, whatever you want to call it, called ferocity. Stacks of ferocity on their own increase your attack speed, and you can stack them up pretty high through a couple different mechanics in the game. But we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later in the video. The second spirit is Gorilla. Gorilla is more tanky, and it is physical damage based as well. And the buff that you can get from Gorilla is stacks of Resolve. Resolve on its own gives you damage reduction, and you get more damage reduction the more stacks you have, obviously, and there's other ways that you can play into this mechanic as well. The third spirit is Eagle. This is probably one of my favorites. It is lightning damage focused, and there's also some great mobility in here as well through Soar, and you can also command the battlefield with your Vortex ability. And what the Vortex ability does is it just sucks everything in, and you can increase the size of this thing. So literally the full screen, you can just Vortex into your character and smash them. It's really, really awesome. The fourth spirit that's available is the Centipede spirit. Now this one is based around poison, and admittedly this is my least played spirit when it comes to the Spiritborn class. I have some fun builds with it, and I think that's kind of why I haven't played it a lot, because I'm kind of saving best for last with this. I have a really fun little mini build theory that we'll talk about a little bit later in the video as well. As you can see, each of the 4 spirits has its own offering to bring to the table for your Spiritborn and different ways to build the class. I've seen a lot of people say, oh, you're going Gorilla or you're going Eagle or whatever it is. And again, I said it before in the video, and I'll probably say it several more times. I really seriously think you should mix and match. You don't want to just go into one spirit and solely commit to that, because you're going to be lacking in other aspects. For example, if you go full into Jaguar, you're going to be lacking survivability that you could be picking up block chance, resolve, and other defense mechanics as well through the Gorilla spirit. Same with if you go full on Gorilla, you're going to be lacking some damage that you could be getting from the other spirits as well. So you definitely want to mix and match. Now, each of these spirits have their very own kind of things that they can bring to the table, and I kind of wanted to point out a few here. The very first one I wanted to point out is for Eagle. We went ahead and jumped into the gameplay here for you, and this is kind of something interesting I've noticed here. So when you're talking about tempering over on your offensive tempers, you can get Worldly Finesse, which will give you 55% vulnerable damage. Now, if you go into the Eagle Finesse, you can see you can get up to 80% vulnerability damage. Now, this doesn't mean you have to be using the Eagle Spirit in order to utilize this temper, but the reason I'm pointing this out is if you do look at some of your Eagle abilities, most notably here, and what I want to point out at this point is Soar. You can spec into this thing so that when you land, you can have a cloud around you that applies vulnerable to other monsters. And vulnerable is a pretty fun mechanic because you can actually, just like crit damage, you can actually stack up vulnerability damage as well. So applying vulnerable through Soar, you can see why it's pretty good. Another thing I wanted to point out here, and this is for the Gorilla, is they have some really strong abilities in here, most notably Armored Hide. Using this thing allows you to become unstoppable and gives you 100% block chance for 3 seconds. You can get even higher block chance than that, and there's actually a legendary aspect in the game. You can see it right here, aspect of Redirected Force. You gain increase critical strike damage equal to a percentage of your block chance, and you double this if you have blocked within the last 10 seconds. You're going to block. I mean, it's going to be doubled because you have over 100% block chance just with that ability alone. I think this thing, from what I've heard from Nunari on our Discord, and thank you again for the insight. Again, I don't look up builds, so it's just kind of whatever I hear on our Discord or on the streams or the YouTube comments. I don't like looking up builds. I like that sense of discovery on my own. But from what I've heard is you can scale up your block chance insanely high, and this aspect right here can become insanely overpowered. Iron Hide makes you unstoppable. You can become unstoppable through a bunch of other sources as well. But this is just one little synergy here I wanted to point out. Armored Hide, you become unstoppable. And this passive node right here, Unrestrained Power, allows you to deal more damage while you are unstoppable. Awesome synergy right there. Another fun mechanic with Gorilla is Resolve. I think I touched on this a little bit earlier in the video, but Resolve is basically a buff that you can stack up and it gives you damage reduction. What I wanted to point out here that makes it also really valuable is with this ability, Crushing Hand, you can spec into it so that Crushing Hand does more damage based on your stacks of Resolve. Now there's even a unique item in the game called Peacemonger's Signet, and this thing's really awesome. This will allow it so that whenever you gain Ferocity, you also gain Resolve. Now I've found dozens of these rings. I think they're pretty common. Now this is really awesome because once you have this legendary aspect over here, the Plains Power, this is a whole new mechanic with the Mystic Circle. Again, we're going to talk about that here at the end of the video. But what this does is you actually get more damage based off your stacks of Ferocity. So it all just goes hand in hand. There's so many different synergies here with the Spiritborn. Next up, I want to point out kind of the class's unique thing here. I don't know what they're called, mastery or something like that. But like, you know, the Necromancer, you can spec into different pet types, things like that. But over here on the Spiritborn, you have what they call the Spirit Hall. Now you have the first extra spirit, I guess, unlocks at level 15. And the second one down here, I believe, is level 30. Now what this is really awesome. So you have your skills, they have a base spirit type, right? Like Soar is an eagle ability. Now I can throw on an extra tag here by going into, I have the Gorilla Spirit on. This makes it so all of your skills are now Gorilla. So you can see Soar here is now an eagle and a Gorilla ability. So that it'll scale and synergize with both of those skill tags essentially. But I'll just kind of go through them real quick. You have your first spirit here. And so the first spirit is what's going to add on that extra tag onto your ability. The second spirit, you don't add on an extra tag through. I just found that out actually while recording the video. So there is Jaguar, which is going to basically give you more damage. You have Eagle. I liked this one. This one was really fun leveling up. Basically, whenever you cast an Eagle skill, you get these storm feathers, and then when you evade, you fling them out. It's pretty fun. I liked this one leveling up. Gorilla, I have this on because Gorilla skills, whenever I cast them, gives me barrier. And if you saw over here earlier on the Vortex, I don't think I actually showed it yet, but Vortex does 300% more damage when you have barrier. So that's why I'm speccing into that. And then you can also get Vortex to cast from your Soar through the Turbulence legendary aspect, which I have right here. And you can also get these boots that also turn your evade into a Soar, and then this also increases Soar damage. There's so many synergies. So I hope that some of the stuff we're talking about here in the video will maybe help you inspire a build that you're crafting on your own. I know we derailed a little bit there, but back to these spirits. That's why we have the gorillas for that barrier. You can get centipedes that whenever you because remember, it's going to turn all your skills into centipede skills. So whenever you hit an enemy, they do less damage, and it stacks up to 8 times. Crazy good defensive there as well. Now over here on the bottom, or the second spirit, whatever you want to call it, you can get maximum ferocity stacks. We've already been over why ferocity is so strong. Currently I'm into Eagle because I'm lacking a little bit of crit chance roll on my gear. Whenever you move at least 4 meters, you gain crit chance, and it's reset when you critically strike. Over under Gorilla, max Resolve. We talked about why Resolve is really good. And then you can also see this makes you unstoppable when you have 5 stacks, which you always will if you're going that way. And then you're just getting more damage from that passive node we pointed out earlier. And then over here on your Centipede Spirit, you can heal for every enemy that you've poisoned in the last 3 seconds. So those are kind of your options with the Spirit Hall when it comes to the Spiritborn class. I feel like there's a lot there. I mean, you got to think you have 8 different choices there, and it just helps mix and match and really customize your own build. I really like the Spiritborn class so far. So we've done a nice overview of the skill tree and the Spirit Hall and kind of just how you should definitely be mixing and matching to best fit your build that you're trying to come up with instead of just going into one spirit. Well, what I want to do now is I want to just go through and just do some highlights here, kind of just rapid fire them at you for each of the 4 spirits and some cool things that I found on the skill tree that I think are pretty interesting. Went ahead and jumped back into the gameplay here, and the very first thing I want to point out is for the Jaguar. They have a really awesome ultimate ability, and this was my very first experience with Spiritborn. First thing that I was like, whoa, this is insanely awesome. So the ultimate is called the Hunter, and what this does is it is a giant Jaguar spirit, and it does loads of damage and it stays out. But now what makes this really special is whenever you use the Hunter, it will overfill your ferocity by 4 stacks. It causes you to deal 100% more damage to injured enemies. Injured as if they're under 35% life. But what I really like about this is that overfill of that ferocity. Now it gets even better. You can make it so that whenever you kill an enemy with the Hunter, there's a chance to instantly reset the cooldown of that ultimate ability. Each time that this happens, though, that chance is halved. So in theory, if you get really lucky, you could just spam this thing. Sometimes you can, I've been able to spam this 3, 4, even 5 times in a row, which is also, in theory, stacking up even more and overfilling even more of your ferocity. Now, I haven't actually tested how high you can stack your ferocity, but I guess after I'm done recording, I'll go try that out. But I really love this ultimate ability. Now, on top of that, this has insane synergy with this passive ability right here. Whenever you cast an ultimate skill, the last potency, defense, or focus skill that you cast before is reset, and you can cast it for free 3 times in the next 5 seconds. That's why through the gameplay here, you'll see one of my skills will get lit up, and then I can basically spam it, which is awesome when it happens for my Vortex and Soar ability, since these are the main sources of my damage currently. But this whole synergy right here could be really useful, I think, for a lot of different builds. There's another Jaguar ability here that I wanted to point out. This one I felt like was pretty good early on. I feel like it kind of got weaker the higher level I got, but I just only have one point in here to show you in the video kind of how this works. So what Rushing Claw is, it's a mobility skill, and you slash a short distance. It's really fun early on. I love this ability. And the reason I'm pointing this out here in the video is because you can spec into this node right here, Invasive Rushing Claw. Using Rushing Claw's last charge will refill 4 charges by consuming 4 stacks of ferocity. Now, if you're already running a bunch of Jaguar abilities and getting bunches of ferocity, anyway, you can see right here that you can literally just spam this thing infinitely. As long as you have at least 4 stacks of ferocity, this thing's never going to run out. You can see I could literally sit here for eternity and spam this ability. Now, I think that's worth pointing out because there's a lot of different things you could tie into this with mobility. There's a lot of different things and applications that you can use for this, so do with that information what you will. Another awesome thing over here on the skill tree is the ability called Rake. And what this does is it claws stuff. It's pretty awesome. But what makes this really special here is if you hit at least one enemy with Rake, it will reduce your longest active cooldown by 0.5 seconds. This is pretty awesome, and I mean, it does work pretty well. The biggest issue with this, though, is Rake actually has a pretty high vigor cost. Vigor is the Spiritborn's main resource. So by default, you can cast this thing 3 times before you need more vigor, but you can recharge your vigor pretty quick, so it's not really that big of an issue. But if you have a high cooldown build, I definitely recommend trying to work that in for that cooldown reduction. The other thing I wanted to point out here, and we're not going to go super in depth with this either, this is I believe they're called Incarnate skills. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. It is Ravager, and then you can also get another one down here called Counterattack. These are basically buffs, and they have charges on them. Ravager is really nice early on because you get guaranteed minimum. These both have a passive effect. The passive effect on Ravager here is that minimum ferocity is 2, so you're guaranteed to always have at least 2 ferocity there. And this is going to allow us your attacks do more damage per strike, which is really good. It's pretty good damage there. You can also extend the duration. You can make it hit multiple times on elites. Otherwise, you can make it so that your core skills will dash and get more vigor. This one's pretty fun. They're just little like passive abilities, basically. And the other one here is Counterattack. This one I tried to build around, and I might revisit it, but my theory was if I could Vortex and pull all the monsters in and then use Counterattack, which makes it so that I dodge. It makes it so that I dodge everything, and then when I dodge, I retaliate. But the damage just didn't feel that great with it. But that's Counterattack. You can get this to make it so that you dodge, retaliate. You can get cooldown reduction based on your ferocity. There's so much that you can do with just these skills alone. Next up, let's go ahead and talk about Gorilla. These next three, I promise, are going to be a lot quicker. I thank you again for hanging out here today. The Gorilla Spirit has some pretty cool abilities. I think I already went over Armored Hide, so we'll just gloss over that. It's a pretty good ability. Make sure you check it out there to get that block chance up. Now over here on the Gorilla Spirit, there's an ability here called Crushing Hand. This one's pretty awesome. This is a core ability, so what you can do with this is you can throw on this new unique item in the game. I think everyone probably knows about it, the Kepaleki. And what this does is it turns your core ability into a basic attack, and then you can essentially just spam it forever and ever and ever. It's pretty cool. So over here on the Gorilla Spirit, I know we talked a little bit briefly about the Resolve buff and what that is. So there's a couple different ways you can get it. We've already been over a few, actually, but the Crushing Hand, I think I already said it. I'll just mention it again. You can actually make Crushing Hand do more damage based off your Resolve stacks. You can get Resolve from this primary ability here. We've already talked about Armored Hide. And I think we also talked quite a lot about the block chance and how that's scaling insanely high right now. But the other thing I wanted to point out here was this Gorilla aspect, the Protector. This thing's pretty awesome. You can have this thing out for 6 seconds, and it basically gives you a buff area that gives you barrier. It makes you unstoppable, and it makes elites do less damage to you while they're within that area. And if you're using that Vortex ability, you can pull them all in there anyway. So I use the Protector leveling up, and honestly, early end game, I was using it a lot, but then I found out the massive amount of damage potential from the Hunter. Yeah, that ultimate ability there, the Protector, it's pretty good. I definitely recommend checking it out. And the massive gorilla on there looks really awesome as well. We're back into the game here, and I just want to touch a little bit here on Eagle. I'm absolutely loving the Soar ability. It's a great mobility on there, and then the Vortex being able to pull monsters in as well is really, really awesome. There's also some abilities in here, and I have not used these, but I just wanted to point them out to you that some of these are some of the meta builds, and I know that because I've seen them in like world events and stuff. People are using Quill Volley that throws these quills. I'm sure these are awesome. There you go, more vulnerability. We talked about that over here with the Soar and how you can get that cloud that makes them vulnerable. You can get more feathers, and there's Razor Wings. I've seen some pretty cool legendary aspects. It has these things can like bounce back to you or something like that. I don't know. I haven't used these, but they look pretty awesome. I don't know. I just see so many people using these two abilities out in the world, and I don't know, when I see people using something like so many, and like that's all I see, I don't know why I tend to stray away from it. I don't know why. I wish I wasn't like that, but that's just how I am. And last but not least, we have the centipede aspect. This is one I have not really played a lot on. I have used Withering Fist for a little bit, but yeah, this one looked awesome. When I very first looked at the Spiritborn, I thought the poison, the centipede looked awesome. There's so much you can do. And actually, one of the last builds that I'm planning on doing, and I'm really excited for, I'm trying to like save best for last or whatever. And I don't know. I haven't even tried the build out or anything, but it's this unique ring right here, Ring of Writhing Moon. And what this does is it gets a Pestilent Swarm to spawn every 10 seconds. And Pestilent Swarm, basically, if you've seen my Desecrated Ground Guide video from Season 5, I need to update it. I eventually will update it. Basically, it just reminds me of that, where you can get these Pestilent Swarms to orbit around you, and there's other sources of this ability as well. Hopefully, I'll do a deep dive when I do this build, but I just want to point this out. I think it looks pretty awesome. I told you if you watch the end of the video, I have a bonus thing here with the Spiritborn that I like and I think is really, really cool, and this is your Mystic Circle. This is a new thing with the Spiritborn that you can do. So Mystic Circle, there's 4 different ones, and there's for each spirit, obviously. So the first one is your Forest Power. This is going to make it so that when you cast a gorilla in the Mystic Circle, it'll give you barrier. Jaguar, we talked about, gives you more damage based off your ferocity. The Sky is really awesome. So this huge Mystic Circle buff, whenever you evade out of it, it will follow along with you. So as long as you're evading out of that circle, like if you're in the circle, when you evade, it will follow you to where you go. It's pretty awesome. And then the Centipede allows you to poison. And then what's really awesome about this is it extends the crowd effects on them. I really like the Mystic Circle. I feel like it's such a cool thing with the Spiritborn, and there's not like a lot. It's not like that powerful, really, but I just think it's fun, and it's a cool mechanic that I enjoy playing with. I like having all 4 of these Mystic Circle types and buffing up that giant circle that follows me around. It's really, really fun. I know I have some gameplay footage playing in the background of the Mystic Circle build that I kind of experimented with. And again, I feel like there's so much untapped potential that I haven't even discovered for myself yet with the Spiritborn, and that is the fun that I have in action RPGs, is discovering the fun builds and then figuring out what we can make powerful to push higher torment levels and push our character. I am absolutely enjoying the Spiritborn class, and I don't know, I was kind of hoping that the Spiritborn class would be a dud, and then I could go back to playing my Necromancer and min-maxing the Desecrated Ground build more, but I am absolutely just enjoying the Spiritborn class. And that's going to wrap it up for this Diablo 4 Spiritborn initial impressions, early review, overview video. Hopefully you enjoyed talking about all the different fun things that you can do with the Spiritborn, and I seriously hope I inspired a new build idea for you in your building process. Hopefully you found this video useful and or entertaining. If so, don't forget that like button and subscribe to the channel if you think I've earned it. Please consider becoming a YouTube channel member today and unlock some pretty cool perks, such as early access to videos whenever I put out batches of videos. You can also unlock some behind the scenes and some fun bloopers that I find while I'm editing videos. And it also helps the family out a lot. Don't forget, your view alone means the absolute world. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.